Frank Corrado was shining bright across the TSN empire yesterday. A very busy day for the former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst. Lots of duties, including the late Sports Center, where they talked about the Canucks and Blues. How are you?
I'm good. I thought that would come up today. A little anecdote from Matt, like, look at that, Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone stayed up past 1 a.m. to get the Canucks talk
Right?
in. Yeah,
Absolutely.
although
What'd
it
you make of
didn't
the
go
game?
super late. I would have liked if they had a better, more diligent performance in front of their goaltender, who was playing his first game in 8 months. Is it? Like, I don't know. Like, that guy has won this team so many games. He's bailed out guys so many times, and he's coming back in a situation where you could tell he looked a little rusty. I think he said it after the game that he felt rusty. It didn't look like it was overly confident or comfortable for him. Now, I'll give him a lot of credit because it felt like he settled in and he made some saves down the stretch that were noticeable and helped the team get a point. But I just think that would have been one of those games where, like, let's try and make it as easy as possible on this guy, and the conditions would have been pretty good for that. St. Louis are not world beaters; they're a good team, but yeah, it felt like there was a little more to be desired from the diligence as far as how they played away from the puck last night.
I thought Rick Tocchet afterwards was going to use that because we've seen this with coaches when they're at rock bottom, they don't talk like they're at rock bottom. They wait for a safe spot to rip a team. The team came back, tied the game, got a point out of it. I thought this was maybe a safe spot, especially with the performance of the group in front of Demko. I thought this was a safe spot to rip the team.
Yeah.
Instead, he has this emotional bite back at Farhan inexplicably. And when asked about the odd man rushes and the breakaways, really downplayed it. And acknowledged it, but didn't really dwell on it or say that he thought this was emblematic of a bigger problem or anything. What did you make of that? I thought he belittled the problems that they had last night, which were pretty big.
I guess the one that comes to mind, the first one, or not the first one, but the one is the Thomas goal. And that's not a systems thing. That's just Garland not playing that correctly. So in that case, I would say that, hey, like, I don't know what the coach is going to do or say about that. But it's always interesting. Like, he's so brutally honest sometimes, even when his team wins games. Like, how many times have we come on here and talked about, like, hey, Canucks win a game, but man, Rick Tocchet did not seem overly happy about that one. It's like he really pushes that one. And then, yeah, on a night like last night, almost goes the other way and gets defensive about things. I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, what the long plan would be around that. Is that maybe a way of just kind of, not lighting more fires for the group? That's the first thing that I would think, like, just kind of, throw some cold water over some things. Because if he does, like, in a game where you lose, everyone's going to be analyzing it anyways. Like, and then things are going to get micro-analyzed. And then if he throws more, more gasoline on that fire, like that kind of multiplies things. I think that's just his way of kind of, trying to keep the flies off after a game where everyone could see, they didn't have a lot going off the rush. They never do. They weren't clean through the neutral zone. They, when Quinn Hughes was not on the ice, there was issues breaking the puck out, and you give up, the odd man rushes and the breakaway chances in front of your goalie that hasn't played in a long time. Like, it didn't take much to see that there were plenty of issues on the ice in a game like that. And I don't think he's a stupid guy. He would know that as well, but he's trying to just kind of pour some cold water on things.
And maybe worried about that home record too. He seems to be worried about the mental state of this group when it comes to the home record. And Jake DeBrusk afterwards on the television side of things was asked about it, and he said, hey, if we want the storyline to stop, we just got to go out there and win. And like, these are big boys here, Frank. They can handle it. Like, go out and win a damn game, and then the home record will stop being a thing.
Now, the Vancouver home record not being good is puzzling to me, because every team is outside of, like, the LA teams and the Alberta teams. Everyone's making a swing. You know what I mean? Like, you're hitting Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, or maybe you're going to do a couple California games and you're going to hit Vancouver. And for some reason, I think, probably because Vancouver is such a nice city, the way the schedule makers line things up, Vancouver always seems to have, like, that road day off for the other team. Now, I'm not privy to St. Louis's schedule coming into this game, but there's enough situations during a season where you should have like a team that's been on a swing, that has maybe a sleepy day off, and you should be able to pounce on them. And that should at times lead to more victories victories at home for Vancouver. But like, I don't know if like the fans from what I've heard, I haven't been to a game yet this year, but from what I've seen on TV, the fans have been good. Like there's good buzz in the building. I don't know. Like it's just, it is puzzling to me for sure.
Yeah. Columbus last week were in Edmonton the night before and showed up and got beat here. St. Louis did have the day off, and I'm sure there's not a single complaint amongst NHL players if you get the day off in Vancouver as opposed to Calgary.
You're looking for that one.
Or Edmonton. Yeah. Absolutely.
You look for that one. Yeah.
Is it now evident to you that, imperfect as he may be, Eric Branstrom absolutely has to play every night for the Vancouver Canucks because they're too short on puck transporters without him in the lineup?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. But good luck convincing that to the, if you want to call it, management group or coaching staff that in the summer went and got big bodies on the back end. And Eric Branstrom is not that. So how much traction can he truly get, even though it's very evident that they need him in the lineup? Like the fact that they went 2 right-handed shots last night playing together and one playing the left side, it's a thing you don't see very often. And Brannström, like they need that, not that type of guy, but they need that puck moving ability, or else the puck just doesn't get out of the zone unless Hughes is on the ice. So that was puzzling to me. And that kind of said to me that, as much as they think, or as much as they do need a guy like that and what he does, he still is climbing a little bit of an uphill battle because he doesn't necessarily fit the mold of what they want their blue line to look like. But if you looked back at last night, I think you could probably pick through a number of times where you say, okay, if that's Brannström on his strong side, there's a very good chance that's a pass that gets made, or we're getting out of the zone and it doesn't get bungled up. Like it's more than a handful. For sure. And that just, I think that signifies the importance of Quinn Hughes for this group. And it also signifies how important it is to have someone who can move the puck. The thing is, though, like you have enough big bodies on the back end, right? Like it's okay to have an Eric Branstrom when you have all these guys that are large and in the way. Like you just can't have 4 of those guys, which they don't. So that's why I was confused as to why you wouldn't have him in the lineup. He's not a perfect player. Right, you're right, but he helps. So
here's the thing. Patrick Allvin has been pretty good about admitting mistakes. Got off Mikheyev, got off Kuzmenko, and it became clear he was. So Patrick Allvin has already crossed this bridge. I think what you're seeing is the last vestiges of a head coach who might have been kicking and screaming about a small defenseman. But here's the thing. I think Allvin just has to play the heavy with Tocchet and go, Rick, I know you like the big defense. I know Adam prefers the big defenseman. I know we had some success with that in the postseason last year, particularly in the Edmonton series, because they just gobbled up so much space against McDavid and Draisaitl. But we have to play at least one, if not 2, more mobile, agile, puck-transporting defensemen, and we're going to go out on the trade market and get you those guys.
Sure.
Because here's the other thing. Like, even Brannström, Allvin and them, they demoted him upon acquisition, right? Like, he did not factor into their plans. So I think Patrick has to be the first one to take the step and say, look, we may have demoted this guy. We may have considered him a throw-in for cap purposes, but he's become a useful player, and maybe we didn't necessarily have designs he would be this useful.
When you started this question about admitting mistakes, I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Vinny Desharnais cannot play another game.
Well, there's that too. It's
crazy, though. It's crazy how Desharnais looks so different on Edmonton, where he's not cast overly different on Edmonton. Like he was a third pair guy that sometimes pinch hit in the top 4 if Cody Ceci was having a rough night. Like that's what he was. Maybe there was a couple nights where he played on the top pair, but those would have been few and far between. But he looked more comfortable. And
I thought it was terrible. You can ask Matt during the playoffs last year. I thought, oh my God, that is a terrible defenseman. And when the Canucks signed him, my mouth was on the floor. And my mouth was on the floor. My jaw was on the floor. Like, what? You saw this guy firsthand and you went and got him?
You gave him 2 years too.
Like,
well, okay, so here's the thing now about, if you want to get into where the Canucks are struggling offensively, they're still dead last in the NHL at producing rush chances, and that has not improved at all. It was an issue going into the year, an issue at the start of the year, and has not improved. Like, pick the worst team in the league that you can think of. Nashville, Chicago, whoever. Vancouver is worse at them off the rush. That is, like, that should be so far from the truth for this team based on the caliber of forwards that they have and their ability to skate the puck. That tells me something. Like, they're not getting the puck, and they're not getting it with clean availability through the neutral zone. The other thing that should really be the focus here is we've talked about the shot attempts and the quality chances, right? And hey, as long as your quality chances are still up there, we're at the point now where shot attempts and shots on net, respectively, are 24th and 25th in the NHL, and now slot shots are all the way down to 25th. So, you can talk about, the conversation of quality versus quantity. They're getting neither right now. And a lot of that has to do with, can you get the puck to the forwards cleanly? And if Quinn Hughes is on the ice, yes, you can. If he's not on the ice, no, you can't. And that is, that should be an issue. Great that you generate chances off the forecheck, because you dump the puck in a lot, and you probably talk about that every game. Let's have a heavy forecheck, and but you need to have more than one tool at your disposal offensively. And right now, they're kind of a little bit of a one-trick pony.
So let me ask you: is Tocchet's system, while high floor, too low a ceiling, too limiting? Can you win at the highest levels playing this way?
I do believe you can win at the highest levels playing this way, because when it comes playoff time, rush chances are not typically plentiful. They're just not. If you're a team that lives and dies by the rush come playoff time, you're going to have a hard time, because teams are tracking so hard back into their own zone, trying to clog things up. Now, if you can marry, the odd quick strike, quick transition rush chance into a goal with your good forecheck and kind of heavy play in the offensive zone, now you're talking. Now you kind of sound maybe a little bit like the Florida Panthers last year. If you'd have to have a lot of other things going your way to be that, but that's the formula for it. But you still need to have the ability to do it sometimes. And I'm not quite sure that we're at the point where, I don't know if we're at sometimes yet with this group when you're last in the NHL. It's not quite enough to say that, if you're getting 4 rush chances in a game on average, I mean, you're kind of just hoping one of those is an odd man rush at that point, because you're not going to be able to find a second wave or put a pass off a pad and crash down for a rebound. It becomes harder to do that when you're not throwing that much volume off the rush. I think it's great. Give them a lot of credit for being a good forecheck team. No one will ever take that away from them. Ultimately, when it comes to winning hockey, that's going to be part of wearing other teams down. And that's why, I still would say the Canucks have a good chance of having success come playoff time, because they have that element to their game. But 32nd in the NHL, that, it should not be that low.
Natural stat trick has them as 29th in high danger chances for. Admittedly, they do have them as third best in high danger chances allowed. Are you okay with that trade-off? I mean, it's not great for fans, that's for sure. It's low event, and you're putting a lot on goaltending, but are you okay just banking on the goaltending and team defense every single night? Do you think they can win 2-1 games the rest of the year and into the playoffs?
It's hard. I watched Winnipeg a lot last year, and they struggled to score, and they had to win game. They won so many games in a row without scoring more than 3 goals, and eventually it caught up to them, and they didn't have it. The power play was average, not even average, below average. It was 22nd in the NHL. They had to win those kinds of games, and when push came to shove and the other team figured you out, you had nothing. You didn't have that pushback. Now, I would say with Vancouver, Like, hopefully Demko gets to a place where he feels healthy. But if you're going to try and put that on Lankinen, we saw it with Winnipeg last year. Hellebuck couldn't even cover up for that. So, Lankinen's a good goalie, but he's not Hellebuck. So you're asking a lot out of that goaltender. You're also asking a lot of a group defensively that, at times when they get hemmed in, they struggle to break it out. So no, like I don't. That's not a good recipe for this team. The best teams, and it's stating the obvious, are well rounded. What's the best compliment that you could give to any group? They win in so many different ways. Right now, if you watch the New York Rangers, you're going to say they lose in so many different ways. It's the polar opposite for them. I just don't think the Canucks are in win in so many different ways mode yet. I think they're resilient. The road trip showed that, but it's not quite there yet.
And I think you're absolutely right. And while I listen to the two of you talk about this and agree with pretty much everything you have to say, and Frank is further right in that, we've talked about this for the entirety of this show, Blake, 13 years. The essence of coaching is being able to adapt and find different ways to win different games based on different opponents, their strengths, weaknesses, and how they match up against yours. Fellas, he doesn't have the personnel to win any other way. He's got one defenseman, two, if you count Brannström, who can move the fucking puck. So, no. But if you're Rick Tocchet, let's all put ourselves in Rick Tocchet's shoes. How am I going to win this game? Well, let's keep the chances down and hope we can convert on however few chances we do get. To me, this is on Allvin and Rutherford, and I do think Rick had a pretty big hand in Desharnais and Forbert coming in here. This is on Allvin and Rutherford to come down to the coach's office and say, Rick, here's the thing. We are only going to get so far playing this way with this group of people. Our bad. We should have gotten you another top four defenseman who can move the puck on a more consistent basis. We're absolutely going to deliver that by the trade deadline. In fact, we may get two if we're lucky. But then what we need from you is a commitment that we're going to play a little bit different and we're going to generate more off the rush. And
that's the thing.
And writ large.
He has to allow those players to play in the different way. Then.
Well, that's it.
So, Frank, I'll ask you, I don't have off the top of my head a ton of Soucy and Myers giveaways by making, and Ray on the last
they've been better recently.
That's the other thing. But Ray was talking about stop passing up the boards last night. Why is every single pass up the boards? Why can't you pass through the middle? Because I don't think we've been railing against Soucy and Myers giveaways too much here lately. Has he just forbade it, and as a result, we get the hockey that we see? Myers used to be able to move the puck pretty well. Soucy got some acclaim because he's a big guy with big reach, but hey, he could move the puck periodically.
Smooth. Yeah. He's smooth with the puck.
Are they just forbidden from doing it, do you think?
If they are, that seems quite elementary. This is the best league in the world. Theoretically, I don't know how many defensemen would play in the league. What is it, 200 or something like this? Mm-hmm. It's the best defenseman of the best. And if you have a clean look to make it up the middle of the ice, you should have the autonomy to. Right. Can you have the discipline to see that the first option, is not going to be there. Now I'm going to go up the wall. And I know that's like a buzz phrase with defensemen that I heard a lot over the course of my career. And this always came down when either you were struggling or as a decor, things were maybe moving a little too fast for you. I always heard, first option hockey. Whatever the first option you see, you take it. And chances are the first option, if that's what's being said, which we don't know, I'm just telling you from my experience, if that's what's being said, it's first option's up the boards. There we go. I'm going to take it, right? And you're just kind of you're chipping away and building from there. That's the only thing that I can think of, because for a coach to explicitly say we are not going up the middle of the ice, the only thing in my recollection that I have of that is playing for Dynamo Riga, where our annual payroll was $6, and we had to play against Avangard Omsk, who had a $20 million budget from Gazprom. And our coach told us before the game, not even to just not pass it up the middle of the ice. We're not passing. We're not even passing the puck. It is a flip or off the glass, or you can ice it 14 times, but we are not making any passes tonight.
No
I swear
giveaways.
to God.
Yeah.
So that way, we will not get caught with a giveaway, and that's how we're going to try and win the game. I highly doubt that's happening at the NHL level with a good coach like Rick Tocchet. But yeah, I do think it probably would be more of the, hey, we've had issues moving the puck this year. Let's just take the first option every single time. Let's not look for option number 2.
Yeah, gotta love oligarch hockey.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me finish by asking you the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question then, Frank. Is Rick Tocchet's system holding this team back?
No, it is not holding this team back. I think like you said, he is trying to play with the roster he has, play with the cards he's been dealt. And let's be honest, let's keep things in perspective here, okay? The Canucks sit in a playoff spot. They haven't had Demko. They haven't had Miller. They've had stretches where they haven't had Besser, and their $11 million player, at times has not played like that, although he's playing better recently. So with all that being said, you've had to lean on the Tocchet system to get you to this point, and the players have had to execute it. So that's the kind of bigger picture overall perspective that you do have to keep in mind as we nitpick certain things. They're still in a good spot, and they haven't had the star power outside of Quinn Hughes, and you've had to lean on it, and look where you are. So it's not all bad. We can, hyper analyze it, which we always do, and it can get better. And I think that's the optimistic view for Canucks fans. You make a couple tweaks, you bring in someone who can move the puck, your goalie's healthy, and all of a sudden you got something here.
Yes, 100% right, Frank Corrado. And it can not only get better, it could be a whole lot worse. And we saw that with this franchise prior to Rick Tocchet's arrival. He pulled this son of a gun out of the abyss. I mean, They were lost. And he has at least developed a system and a team that on a night-to-night basis is competitive, and last year was much more than that. Yeah, it's imperfect.
It ain't scintillating.
No, and it's not, Blake. It's not. And I think we're just going to have to stomach it here until the personnel changes on the blue line. Awesome session here, Frank. Appreciate all your insight. We will catch up next week.
Thanks, boys. And remember, no passes.
No passes.